I'm Jordan Belfort, and this is Sales School. All right, short message from my number one sponsor, NetSuite. Here's the deal. If you're a business owner, you don't need them, NetSuite, to tell you it's tough to run a business, because it is, right? We all know that. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down anymore. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. They're the world's number one cloud-based business system. They give you the visibility and control of your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. You want to join over 24,000 companies using NetSuite right now. So schedule a free product tour now at netsuite.com/school. That's netsuite.com/school.
The subject for today is going to be about scripting, the importance of writing scripts. And the reason I'm choosing this topic is it really still relates back to this weekend where I had this mastermind. And I just got to say, it was one of the most pleasurable weekends I've had in a really long time. You know, I keep them small, you guys know, 7 people, right? And it's just the right size. And it was just, I mean, it was great in every way. Well, I'll talk about it another time. Anyway, but one of the topics that came up is they were asking me, like, what do you think is, you know, one of the secrets of why you close so well? You know, what's the one thing that you have that allows you, you know, besides not you're a natural born close, but is there something like you can point to? And I was like thinking about it. And it's like, well, tonality for sure, right? The ability to walk in the customer's shoes, an overall sense of the close, going for the close, not having any fear of rejection or even minding rejection. But someone brought up a very interesting point. They said, you know, I think that one of the things that separates you from most people and gives you a huge edge is your memory. You have a photographic memory. Those of you who know me well know that I have a photographic memory, or close to it. That I remember, you know, things in intimate detail and forever, basically, right? And I'm able to then connect that linguistically. So in other words, not only can I remember stuff, but I can serve it up at a moment's notice. I can coagulate my thoughts very quickly and make them into a statement. You know, someone says something, boom, it's a quickness, that's just something I'm born with, right? And other people are too. It's a rare quality, but there's certainly other people like that. And what that does, it allows me to essentially be really, really persuasive on my feet, like be nimble. In other words, because at the end of the day, what's really happening when you sell? When you close someone, and I'm talking an influence-based situation, because I hate these people who try to say they teach sales and they say it's not. No, in the modern world, it's not. You're not trying to persuade people anymore. You can't, pressure people, God forbid, because they're just, no, people don't want that. The millennials will get the out of here. I persuade people every day, and so do you. Come on, let's get real. So just when you hear that from a would-be sales trainer, they tell you like they're not really talking real, just tell them to shut the up, okay? Because bottom line is influence, persuasion, it's based on the human psyche. It's always going to be there. It's always necessary. All right? So this whole nonsense that in some way that, the world has changed, so there's no longer a reason to sell is the biggest bunch of bull. Because I'm using my skill sets more than I've ever used them before, and they're more effective than ever, okay? Anyway, point I'm trying to make is that it's true. There is an ability I have that allows me to create airtight, logical cases on the fly. I'm just naturally good at that. And that's, I think, was probably one of the things that allowed myself and also Danny, very smart guy, to close the rich people even before I invented the straight line. I was able to do it. And the reason my guys were having such problems with it is because they were, weren't that intelligent. They were like the lower end of the intellectual gene pool. I always say, Forrest Gump, 3 hits of acid, right? The old joke. Anyway, point being is that when they would get on the phone with a prospect, a rich person, more educated, probably smarter, right? They would get found out that they were novices and not that smart and that they dropped out of high school. They were being found out. And when I invented the straight line, what it did, it was a sort of end-to-end system so that you knew exactly what you were going to say before you said it the whole way through. In other words, it was a fully inclusive. I don't mean just rebuttals. Because, remember, rebuttals are not like, when I say, you answer anyone's objection, it's not like rebuttals. Rebuttals just give you the right to speak more. It was the actual language patterns themselves, these independent language paths I created for them, and then showing how to hook it together along a straight line to make every sale the same. Because here's the deal. Every sale is different without the straight line. See, when I said to them, guys, every sale's the same, don't you get it? That's because I was making it the same. And what I said was, watch the straight line. What I did there was I said, watch, here's how I do it. I corral it within these boundaries, right? So while they have different needs, prospects, different values, different pain points, different budgets, different experiences they bring into any situation of influence, right? All those things are different. And they're going to say different things. So in that sense, yeah, every sale's different. But by using the straight line system, you can make every sale the same. And remember, it's not exactly the same, because a straight line represents the perfect sale with no objections, no interruptions, a laydown. But that's not the way it goes. Typically, we have these spaces above and below the line, inside the boundaries, right? And that's where healthy influence occurs. So it's not like you're really on the straight line. You're off the straight line, but inside the boundaries and moving forward towards the close. And because we know there are certain core elements that have to line up in every sale, we can then make every sale the same by taking control of the sale right out of the gate, and then we slowly but surely line up these elements. However, in the absence of knowing exactly what you're going to say, it's impossible to use a straight line at the highest level. You can use some of the tonality, some body language, right? Some basic stuff, and that's why there's some good enough factors where you can just get a pop of 20, 30%. But when I say to close anyone is closable, I'm talking about a very different type of situation. I'm talking about a different level of application of the straight line. And that level requires you to have kick scripts. Doesn't matter whether you sell in person or over the phone. When I say a script, I'm talking language patterns. In other words, you have to know what you're going to say before you enter an encounter. And I don't care what you sell. You can do that in any industry. Offline, on, doesn't matter. Because even online, you got to pick up that phone at some point, by the way. And I had this big thing with Alex Mayer, one of the top internet marketers in the world. I love the guy, brilliant guy, PhD from NASA, by the way, now one of the biggest marketers out there. And his point was, he was coming to me for counsel. I've come to him for counsel and all sorts of stuff online. He came to me for about the sales part. Because after a certain point, you gotta pick up, if you want to get the bigger money, you gotta call people. And that's when the art of the persuasion, the straight line, comes into effect. But here's the point. In the absence of having perfectly constructed scripts, which is why I spoke about the script builder last week. It was such a huge deal, right? In the absence of perfectly constructed scripts, what happens is you spend so much time trying to think about the right things to say that you can't focus on what your prospect is saying back to you, picking up on their cues of body language and tonality to figure out where they are on the uncertainty scale for each of the 3 tenths, to pick up on their unconscious cues they're letting off about how they feel, what they're thinking, right? Let me tell you a story here. There's a video circulating around the internet of me closing a really interesting sale in the dairy industry. And you probably know the story. I probably told you where I closed the sale. It was being staged. It was a psychology company, right? Organizational psychology. They paid me 50 grand a day. This is back about 10 years ago, to sit in the room and go through all sorts of tests because they wanted to dissect what was in my DNA that made my ability to sell just so extreme. How did I close such a high level and teach others to do the same with the straight line? So they tested me. Everything from Rorschach ink blot test to, what's this association? What do you think when you see that? What are your, characters of this? How do you feel about this? Blah, blah, blah. And they also did what are called critical incident scenarios, where they actually set me up, filmed it, where they said, all right, I want you to, they called actors in. This guy's going to pretend he owns a fur coat. He's coming to buy a fur coat. Sell him a fur coat. Like, sell me this pen, right? Another guy comes in. You're going to sell the guy, if he's like, wholesale for machinery, right? Another guy's travel packages. And one of them was in a financial product, was selling them on opening up an account to manage money, right? And I said, all right, fair enough. So they start the exercise off by handing me a dossier about yay thick, about 10, 12 pages, right? And they said, you have 15 minutes to go through this dossier. It talks about this company, fictitious company, right? The CEO, who's going to be an actor, is going to walk in, the industry itself, and so forth. And then we want you to close the CEO on opening up an account with you to manage money. So I said, all right, fair enough. I start writing. I looking through the material, right? About 10 minutes in, I start writing my script. They come in 15 minutes later and said, you ready? I said, well, can I have a bit longer? I said, yeah, take as long as you want. I said, all right, thanks. 20 minutes later, they come in. I'm still working. They said, are you done? I said, oh, almost. Can you give me another 20 minutes? Yeah, take your time. Great. I kept writing. Finally, an hour and a half later, an hour 20 later, right, they finally come in. Are you ready? I said, yep, now I'm ready. Now, the guy comes in. He's an actor, but it's all filmed with lights and everything. It's very professional, right? And we start going through the sale, and I'll actually attach the link so you can see this. It's very interesting, right? And I start going through my whole straight line sale with this guy, and I'm sounding awesome. Okay, I'm good at what I do, right? And we get to the end, and he's giving me a lot of objections, right? He's not a lay down by any stretch. He's being really tough, the guy. I'm just plowing through it, doing my thing. And finally, I get the guy really boxed in with his belief systems, the whole thing. I'm doing a really good job, right? And the guy's like, I asked him for the order for the 5th time. He's like, fine, I'll do it. And he starts cracking up. And all the psychologists who were in the background, they were cracking up. I'm like, what's the joke? When I closed, they said, we told the guy that under no circumstances was he allowed to say yes. He wasn't allowed to close. He was a no, don't buy. And I still got him to buy. And the guy's like, you were just too persuasive. So, but here's the point. The interesting thing. They said, we've tested 50 other salespeople, top producers, because we wanted to get a baseline before we tested you. 50 people. No one closed the guy. And not one of the 50 spent more than 5 minutes reviewing the material. How about that? They didn't even review the material. Top producers. I spent almost an hour and a half, and I closed the person. Now, obviously, yes, I have natural sales skills, right? And I know the straight line system, and I'm a top producer, one of the best in the world. But what kind of edge did I have? I had 90 minutes of preparation that I built. I wrote out all my patterns, everything perfect. So when the guy came in, I knew exactly what I was going to say. I had confidence. It came across. I was clear. I could read his body language, his tone. How you can't use the straight line. You can't close at any reasonable level unless you get your patterns down. So I want this to be script week. I want you to go back through your scripts and make sure they're perfect. Make sure that they're usable, meaning that they're smooth as silk. They make sense. Remember, we are in the business of creating scream from the hilltops, airtight logical cases for all 310s. We're in the business of creating scream from the hilltops, airtight emotional cases for the 310s. We need to lower the action threshold, add on pain. These things must be prepared before you walk in the door or before you pick up the phone. Not every word, but your core patterns. And then you link them together using the tactics of the straight line system. In the absence of that, you are literally, it's like almost like you're trying to win a 100-yard dash with one foot tied up. Seriously. This is, and here's the thing. The psychologist was so impressed by this. I always did that, right? Even back in the scene in the movie when I closed that sale the first day and everyone was freaking out in the office, right? Before I made that first pitch, I wrote a script for an hour and a half. And the kid sitting next to me was like, well, what the fuck you doing? I said, I'm writing the script. He goes, no, you don't need to do that. I'm like, thanks for sharing. Like, an hour later, the guy was like fucking bowing down to me. Point is that because I knew that I couldn't just wing it, in the absence of knowing what I'm going to say before I say it, I'm even limited. And I'm very quick on my feet. I want you to go through your scripts and really dig in this week. Make this the week where you perfect your language patterns. Get it down. Bring them all to a higher level. Don't settle for anything but second best. And watch what happens. The psychologists call this, they came up with a name because they label everything, right? They call this strategic preparation. Big name, but it actually makes sense. That's what they called it, strategic preparation. It's one of Jordan Belfort's competencies. Right? Anyway, the point is I know that preparation gives me such a edge, no matter how great. And that's why sometimes when if I'm asked a question, I'll say, well, guys, if I had time to really prepare, I could say it much more eloquently. Because no one's perfect on the fly. You give me time, I write it out, I make it perfect, and bam. That's how you set yourself up to close everyone who's closable, to anyone who's closable, right? That's how you do it. strategic preparation. Don't sell yourself short. Take the time to write perfect patterns. Let's make it this. Today, let's focus on product. Okay, product. To make this all 3 patterns perfect, like airtight. And when you're done, make sure they all build on each other, and bam, watch what happens. Tomorrow, we'll focus on one of the other 10s. All right, we're over 15 minutes here, so I got to roll. I want to get you guys out there, kick it. Guys, let's make this a great week. You know, my business is booming. I want your business to boom. We're growing together here. Put the time in. This system works. You know it does. You're already seeing results. This system works. Invest in yourself. Grow yourself. I promise you. There's great things ahead. All right? Let's kick it. I'll see you tomorrow.